Every legend has to begin somewhere. Every classic has to have its starting point, and even the greatest have to take their first few steps and accept a fair few stumbles along the way. Not me though, because I was born in 2016 with my first video on this channel. My programming will not allow me to remember anything before that point, beep boop and all that. And speaking of amazing digital creations, video games are full of era-defining icons. Your Solid Snakes, your Marios, your Raymans, God I miss you mate, and we all remember where we were when they popped onto our screens to redefine what gaming was at that point in time, right? I say that because in some cases, looking back even further down the low-res rabbit hole means that you'll find examples of video game characters who actually got their starts in other titles. If you spotted these back in the day, well, my friend, you were one of the hardcore, as these cameos have slipped by most franchise fans for decades. So why not spread the knowledge and the love together? As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game characters who appeared sooner than you thought. Number 10. STARKILLER, SOULCALIBUR 4. STARKILLER is the protagonist from the much-loved Star Wars The Force Unleashed video games, the first of which released in September 2008, and the second of which was released in 2000, and yeah, this one was pretty bad, and I don't care what you say, the story fell off a bloody cliff. Anyway, STARKILLER actually made his video game debut 2 months earlier, appearing as a playable fighter simply dubbed The Apprentice in SOULCALIBUR 4. The beat-em-up sequel famously featured a bizarre yet brilliant crossover with Star Wars, where Darth Vader and Yoda were also playable characters alongside this new secret apprentice. It was a brilliant bit of hype for the upcoming Force Unleashed games, but there were reports of hundreds of players being simply confused as to who this seemingly random insert was. After all, this was a fighting game, and when has Star Wars and fighting ever gone together? Well, outside of that rather terrible but great Masters game that was on the PS1 and that lightsaber duel thing that was on the PS2. But what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't as obvious as it was eventually made when the game released. And he was pretty good as well. Number 9. Sonic the Hedgehog, Radmobile. Sonic the Hedgehog is, of course, one of the most iconic characters in the history of the medium, but he didn't actually make his first appearance in his own eponymous debut platformer, which released in June 1991. Rather, Sonic initially had a cameo appearance in the Sega-published arcade racer Radmobile, released a whole 4 months prior in February 1991. Sonic is visible as an air freshener hanging from the driver's rearview mirror throughout the game, and though nobody knew it at the time, of course, a future icon was literally hidden in plain sight. As for Radmobile, well, I don't want to be harsh on it, but the Sonic cameo is easily the most notable thing about this game. Number 8. NOOB SAIBOT, Mortal Kombat 1992. Mortal Kombat's cult fave character NOOB SAIBOT started out as a bit of a joke, his name actually being a mashup of the reverse surnames of the franchise's co-creators Ed Boon and John Tobias. The character is largely accepted to have made his debut in Mortal Kombat 2 as a non-playable enemy who the player can battle in Goro's lair after winning 50 concurrent matches. NOOB's solid black appearance lent him an air of mystery that, in conjunction with his ridiculous moniker, made him popular with fans to the extent that he developed an extensive backstory and distinct aesthetic in future games. But 2004's Mortal Kombat Deception confirmed that NOOB has actually been part of the series since the very beginning, revealing that he was actually the original Sub-Zero who was killed by Scorpion. For future games, the Sub-Zero mantle went to NOOB's younger brother, while NOOB forged out an identity in his own right. Now, if you don't pay much attention to the wider Mortal Kombat lore, and let's be honest, most of us don't, this is a mind-blowing realization. Number 7. Mario, Donkey Kong. If you ask most casual gamers when Mario made his debut, they probably likely guessed that it was the 1983 arcade classic Mario Bros. But as dedicated Mario fans should know, Mario actually appeared a few years prior in the 1981 arcade game Donkey Kong, albeit with a slight catch. Now, Mario appears as the player character tasked with taking down Donkey Kong, yet in the game's original Japanese arcade release, he actually went entirely unnamed. In later versions, however, he was given the bizarre moniker Jumpman. But for the game's US release, he was again renamed to Mario, and as confirmed in recent years by Nintendo themselves, the platformer's iconic name was inspired by the landlord who leased Nintendo of America their warehouse, Mario Segale. The rest, as they say, is history. Number 6. Arnaud Dorian and Elise de la Serre, Assassin's Creed Rogue. 2014's Assassin's Creed Unity cast the player in the role of assassin Arnaud Victor Dorian, whose love interest just so happens to be the one and only Elise. But both characters were actually sneakily introduced in the previous entry to the franchise Assassin's Creed Rogue, a quasi-prequel to Unity which was released exclusively for PS3 and Xbox 360 the very same day that Unity was released for the current-gen consoles. Now, Rogue's final mission sees the protagonist Shay Patrick Cormatt assassinate Arnaud's father Charles Dorian, and if you explore the surrounding area, you'll actually find Arnaud and Elise as children, where Arnaud can be overheard talking about his father. This dovetails perfectly into Unity's plot, which picks up with Arnaud as an adult. Though Rogue is deemed a mainline Assassin's Creed title by Ubisoft, it being dumped on prior-gen platforms upon initial release the same day as the more high-profile Unity no less, ensured that many players just simply dismissed it as a spin-off. As a result, the game's delicious final reveal was missed by a lot of fans because they were just not seeing it as a mainline entry. It's a shame. Number 5. Captain Price, Call of Duty. For many, the Call of Duty franchise may as well have not existed until the release of 2007's Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, where it enjoyed a major critical and commercial uptick due to its stylishly cinematic campaign and groundbreaking multiplayer suite. Modern Warfare also popularized the heroic Captain Price, who has been a franchise mainstay pretty much ever since. But Price actually made his series debut years prior in the original 2003 Call of Duty, being rescued by the player character Private Martin during the Alps Chateau level. In fact, Price ends up dying in a later mission, yet reappears in 2005's Call of Duty 2, as this game is actually set prior to its predecessor. Price was also absent from Call of Duty 3 entirely, though was of course reintroduced for the quasi-reboot Modern Warfare. Though logic dictates that Modern Warfare pressed the reset button on the active continuity, there's actually a delicious theory that we're hanging out with the original Price's grandson in the Modern Warfare games. Whatever you believe, Price wasn't an entirely new creation for the Modern Warfare series. His distinctive moustache and plummy accent have been around a good few years longer. Number 4. Banjo the Bear and Conker the Squirrel, Diddy Kong Racing. You'd be forgiven for assuming the beloved platforming icon Banjo the Bear made his video game debut in his 1998 N64 romp Banjo-Kazooie. But as a result of that game being delayed, he actually ended up appearing first in Rare's racing game Diddy Kong Racing, released more than 6 months prior. Similarly, Conker the Squirrel is best known for his debut appearance in the delightfully crude 2001 N64 platformer Conker's Bad Fur Day, yet most fans would actually be doubly wrong about this one. Conker not only appeared previously in the 1999 Game Boy Color title Conker's Pocket Tales, but of course his real debut was also in Diddy Kong Racing, which came out almost 2 years earlier. Both Banjo and Conker are playable racers in the game, but unless you've dusted off your copy of Diddy Kong Racing lately, you couldn't be blamed for forgetting about them. Number 3. Vincent Brooks, Persona 3 Portable. Vincent Brooks is the 30-something, hopelessly tortured horn dog protagonist of the wonderfully eccentric puzzle platformer Catherine, as was released in 2011 and beautifully remastered earlier this year. But Vincent made a prior cameo appearance in another game developed by Atlus, Persona 3 Portable, an enhanced PSP port of Persona 3 released in Japan well over a year before Catherine. Vincent appears in the game's Club Escapade as a character simply named Man Drinking Alone, where he mentions his recurring nightmares and his pregnant girlfriend, both of which inform much of Catherine's narrative. Though various timeline and logistical elements of the cameo don't quite line up, suggesting it's more of an Easter egg than an actual canon piece, the character portrait is near identical to Vincent, save for having a mole below his left eye, which Catherine's Vincent does not. Number 2. MERYL SILVERBURGH, POLICENAUTS. MERYL SILVERBURGH is one of the most important supporting characters in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, best remembered for her appearance in 1998's Metal Gear Solid and her glorious return in 2008's Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. But the steely heroine was actually first created for Hideo Kojima's previous 1994 adventure game POLICENAUTS, where she appears in a supporting capacity, bearing her iconic red hair, black tank top, and distinctive arm tattoo. Kojima reportedly liked the character enough that he decided to include her in the Metal Gear franchise, though presumably in order to avoid any messy continuity issues, no explicit references are ever made to the events of POLICENAUTS. For all intents and purposes, though, they're functionally the same character. And number 1, Ralph Jones, TNK3, or Tunk 3. Ralph Jones is one of the most popular characters from the hit beat-em-up series King of Fighters, which launched the series with the King of Fighters 94 and counted Ralph amongst its original roster. But long before he became a franchise mainstay, Ralph made numerous earlier appearances in games of totally different genres that were also developed by SNK. In 1986, he appeared in the arcade run-and-gun title Ikari Warriors and its 1988 and 1989 sequels, going by the name of Colonel Ralph in the Japanese release before being renamed to Paul for the international versions. But Ralph also appeared in another game prior to Ikari Warriors. He was the protagonist of the 1985 arcade shooter TNK3, or Tunk 3. Though the player never actually sees Ralph in the game, he is nevertheless piloting the tank which the player controls throughout. Yet almost an entire decade would pass before Ralph would star in King of Fighters and become the more mainstream favorite that he's known as today. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game characters who appeared much sooner than you thought. I hope that you enjoyed it, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And I hope that you have a fantastic day, whatever you are getting up to. And I just want to say one thing. We spoke today about looking back at the past, learning from it, and basically looking at absolute legends. But you know who else is an absolute legend? You, listening to this video. You are an absolute legend because you deserve love, happiness, and success. We all do as human beings, and don't let anyone try to take those 3 pillars away from you. It is okay to take a break. It is okay to ask for help. And best of all, you are not alone because there are friends, family, and professionals in the support industry who all care about you and want you to do well. Don't let anyone try and tell you otherwise. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.